just heard about a nonprofit that lost most of a year's budget to embezzlement over the course of 10 years. How does that happen in a $6 million organization? And I'd like to share with you my take on that as a CFO who's worked with a number of different companies in the $1 to $10 million range. You know, the Enrons make the big headlines, right? The large font point headlines about the theft and embezzlement, sure, because those are the large dollars. But the statistics tell us that most embezzlement happens in smaller organizations, and not-for-profit organizations are not exempt from this very sad phenomenon. And it hurts even more, doesn't it? It hurts even more when the embezzlement happens to not-for-profit organizations, because you have a team of magnificent people who are gathered to make a difference in people's lives, and you have somebody siphoning off almost $6 million over the course of 10 years. That's an average of a tenth of the company budget per year. That's 10% of the company budget per year. And I would say it comes down to the misconception. So it comes down to two things. One of my fellow colleagues put it best this week. There's a misconception. Trust is not an internal control. Internal controls are policies and procedures that protect organizational assets, whether it's cash assets, donor lists, customer lists, inventory, and also internal controls not only protect assets, but help to ensure that the numbers showing up in the financial statements reflect the actual financial position and activities of an organization during a given period. So trust is not an internal control. Now, just as at the beginning of this show, we were talking about the love and commitment that an entrepreneur can show to her customers. We don't have to sacrifice trust in a high internal control environment. We don't have to say, well, gosh, I need you to show me receipts, or I need you to show me a bank statement or bank reconciliation because I don't trust you. There does not have to be a sacrifice of trust in order to have strong internal controls. Strong internal controls prevent fraud, prevent theft, prevent embezzlement. And so you engage with good policies, strong policies and procedures, because that's what successful business leaders do. And where the trust comes in is, can I count on you to do every day what you say you're going to do? Right? That you don't have to sacrifice that trust. Don't misplace your trust. Don't say, oh, I don't ever have to supervise your work. I don't ever have to look at a bank statement or a bank reconciliation or do analysis or have outside auditors take a look because I trust you. No. You do those things and have outside verifications and analysis and a culture and processes because that's what successful organizational leaders do. And where the trust comes in is, again, can I count on you? So you don't have to sacrifice trust to have a strong internal control environment. Put your trust where your trust belongs, and put your internal controls where your internal controls belong. A quick list of internal controls that can help to prevent or detect theft. And by the way, the embezzlement that this board president was writing me about was actually detected by the outside auditing firm. However, the independent auditing firm is not required by professional standards to report, to even locate theft or embezzlement. An independent audit is not designed to detect fraud. If the auditors happen to detect it, they will report it. Nassim is weighing in here. Yes. I had one of the clients, oh gosh, started writing checks for her own, right, to justify that she should be making more money, right, than such and such person in the company. And that, I'm glad you wrote that in, Nassim. It grieves me that it happened, but it also brings up an important point for our listeners. There's a fraud triangle. 3 things need to be in place in order for fraud to occur. And that's number 1, some incentive, some pressure, some motivation. Number 2 is a rationalization. And the incident that Nassim shared with us also included that rationalization. Why it's okay for me to be doing this. And number 3 is an opportunity. And here's how this answer really comes together. A strong internal control environment will eliminate the opportunity for fraud. No matter what pressures a person is facing in his or her life, no matter what stories they make up to tell themselves that this is okay, if there's no opportunity for it, it won't happen. As promised, a quick list of sample internal controls. Procedure that so first of all, segregation of duties. The person who handles the bookkeeping is not the same as the person who moves money. And in smaller businesses, one person is tasked with both. These are my hats, in case you're wondering why I'm touching my hair. One person is often tasked with both, and it's great that both Paula and Michelle here, because the two of them, they're like a dynamic duo. They often team up. Michelle often takes on the treasury, even though she's also a skilled bookkeeper. When the two of them are working together, Michelle often takes on treasury tasks, moving money, whereas Paula does the record keeping and bookkeeping. Because the more people you have involved in segregation of duties, means that it's a safer environment for everyone. It protects the people doing the job. It reduces the likelihood of fraud because it's a lot harder to execute a fraud if you have to collude with somebody else. And again, this is not about trust. This is about good business practices, and it also protects your good people because they don't want to have too much risk on themselves as well. If there's some financial funny business, Michelle can say, look, I've been executing the transactions, I haven't touched the books. Paula can say, look, I've been doing the bookkeeping, I haven't touched money. It protects them as much as it protects anybody else. So a strong internal control environment starts with segregation of duties. And we could talk about this all day, but as an example, there's one more policy that the CEO or someone high up in the organization, maybe the chief financial officer, maybe the VP of finance, someone who is not charged with the bookkeeping function, reviews the bookkeeping records. For example, compares the bank statement against the bank reconciliation. That one powerful act, if you know what to look for, can take a half hour a month, and you can spot red flags. Plus, if your team knows that you are looking out for them, protecting their reputation by checking over, let's say, the bank reconciliations, they can feel secure that you have their backs, that if something happens, they know that they're not to blame. And if someone is planning on committing fraud, but they know that you check up on the bank recs every month, they're much less likely to do it. And that's what comes in with that opportunity. If they know that the opportunity is not there, they're much less likely to commit that fraud.